This one's for all those small team providers that own a practice or own an online business that have an employee or have employees, and you are looking for signs that maybe your employees are burnt out. If that is the case, today's video is for you. So today I want to get into burnout and stages that I've seen of burnout throughout the process of different providers, admins, managers, sales, marketing people, whoever that is in your company, social media teams, ad teams, like whoever may be on your team, and when you can spot burnout. Burnout can look so many different ways. I'm going to first start with in person in a traditional, like brick and mortar practice. The ways that I have spotted and seen burnout are a couple different things. Number one, when an employee walks in exactly at that 9 o'clock time slot or that 10 o'clock time slot, whenever they're supposed to be in, or maybe even that 8 o'clock time spot, if someone walks in literally as the clock says the time that they should be there, that to me is not the right employee. Not at all. Because they are not valuing being 100% ready to go when the clock says game on, or it's just culturally not a right fit, at least in my eyes. I have very high standards. So if someone is there and walks in the door at 9 o'clock and we're supposed to be on the phones at 9 o'clock, then that to me is not culturally a good fit. You guys have to decide what kind of culture and standard you want to set. But I personally don't like to have a person walking in exactly at 9 o'clock if their shift starts at 9 o'clock. That is just not, that's not it. We have to be ready to go. Same thing with providers. I've seen many times where patients are in the waiting room and providers aren't even in yet. Now, you know, some patients arrive like 40 minutes early. I get that. That I don't expect. But if you're, 5 minutes before your shift starts and a patient's sitting there twiddling their thumbs, and then you're taking another 2, 3 minutes to put your stuff down, jacket, whatever it may be, get your water, get your computer pulled up, and now you're running late for your patient, even if it's just by 2 or 3 minutes, that to me isn't upholding the standard that personally I've set in a culture. So what standard do you want to set for your company? Because whatever your standard is, that actually should be the culture that is distributed throughout your company. And then you have to actually audit that to make sure that that is living up to standard. And so when I see that someone maybe is not living up to their full potential, I start to see that they just show up right when their shift starts. I start to see that they come in with like not really a good smile on their face. Maybe they don't acknowledge the front desk and say like hi, or maybe they don't acknowledge you and say hi. They just walk in with their head down and kind of walk back to where they can put their stuff down and then start their patient. That to me is burnout. That to me something is going on. That's a red flag to me. Um, Another way I've seen burnout is if emotionally after many sessions the provider breaks down because emotionally it's just taxing. The work that we do as providers can be emotionally taxing because of the stuff that we can take from our patients. And in the pelvic health realm, we handle heavy things, and that can get tiring. You can get burnt out from that, yes. But there has to be, things before that put in place so that you don't feel that, or maybe you don't feel that burden, or maybe you hire a therapist to help you process and know that you shouldn't take that on, like physically take that on, or even mentally take that on. And like, that is like on them, but you're just helping them and you're doing the best that you can to help them type thing. So that's another way. If they're like crying after sessions, or they're, one or two times I get, but like if it's a lot where you're like, wow, this is really affecting them and impacting them, I would really sit them down and have a talk and see what the heck's going on, whether or not, how can you help them more? How can you point them in the right direction? How can you give them more resources? What help do they need to how to feel supported as well with that? I think that's, really important. Another thing I've recognized with burnout is employees that will, like, let's say they have a lunch break and they just go sit in like a back room by themselves and they don't really want to interact with the rest of the staff. That to me is burnout. Or they take their lunch break in their car. I'm not saying always, by the way. Okay. I get some people just want their privacy and all that. I get that. But, or they go take their lunch break in the car because they just want to be away from people. Personally, that is not the culture I want to set. I want to set where they want to be interacting with people. They're excited to be on a lunch break with everyone because we get to learn from each other. We get to talk from each other, not trying to hide in a corner or even like take a nap during a lunch break. That to me is like the culture is completely off. And I think the first thing to recognizing burnout is A, knowing your standards, B, auditing and make sure those standards uphold, and then noticing when those standards start to decrease with an employee. Because you may find at first it's like night and day difference. They may be like superstars. And then as time goes on, things start to slip, they start to get more comfortable. They're like, that doesn't really matter that much. And then you're like, well, what the heck happened to this version that was up here? And now I'm getting this version over here. That to me is when we need to have a talk and figure out truly what's going on. Maybe it's something internally, maybe it's something with their family. I don't know. But that's when we really have to have a talk of like, how are we going to solve this? Because the way we're showing up right now is not it. The other way I recognize burnout is just by appearance. Did they used to have their hair done a lot and come in happy, joyful, whatever, and now they're coming in with like a kind of face and their hair's just a hot mess. So that might be, again, differences in appearances. That could be another way to recognize that someone is burnt out. Not wanting to show up for events or like team outings. That could be another thing. Now, you could also just be an introvert, sure. But if you noticed in the past that they did want to come and now they don't want to come, that could be another situation that, things have gotten to where they're just not happy anymore. And then you need to have a hard conversation of, if you're not happy here, then please leave and, please make yourself happy. Like that's key no matter what your business is doing or not. So really just caring about the people, that's huge. Where I've seen this in the online space is that, you know, let's say you had a social media person that was doing your social media. Okay, great. Well, maybe at first they were all into like studying trends and really giving you the data and being able to say, this is what I'm seeing. And 3, 4 months in, they're not bringing you any of that information. They're just kind of saying, yep, did the work, check the box, I did it. That to me is starting to be signs of we're not paying close attention, we're maybe burnt out. So again, that needs to have we need to have a conversation there. You'll see a lot of this goes back to conversations, having clear culture, having clear expectation, having clear leadership. Everyone wants to be led. If they're not led, they will go astray and you'll get subpar work. It's just what happens. Let's talk about like ad management, right? An ad manager for online business. If you're running ads and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, okay, we're really studying the demographics, we're really studying the area codes, tell me what cities and that, that we're going to hit. Okay, great. 4 months go by, it's crickets. There's nothing. Oh yeah, we're just running the same campaign again. That to me is not someone that I want on my team. I want someone that's constantly studying it, bringing me the data, and then saying, okay, this is what we're going to do about it. Yes or no, do you approve? That's someone that tells me that they're in it. Someone that's like, yep, just still running the same stuff. No, that's a horrible standard. So just be really mindful of that when you're starting to see these signs of burnout. Let me think about an admin, for instance, an admin that may have to filter people hanging up on them, phone calls, people that are upset about a cancellation policy. Well, that does take a toll on the admin. If you keep hearing all these people like, no, 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 I don't want your service, and you're just trying to help them, well, that gets them down. So if you start seeing like they're not acting really right that day, or they're just not as like upbeat, or they're just are kind of like their energy is low on the phone, to me right then and there, you need an actual talk. You need to talk and you got to figure it out. And your job as the leader is to build them back up and making sure that they are in the vision with you. Any one of these employees, if their energy is down or you're feeling like, they're just not performing at their top capacity, your job is to A, recognize that, and B, give them their cookies and build them back up if you want them to stay in the company. If you don't want them to stay in the company, then your job is then to point out the problem and then, let them go. That's ultimately it, because it will be best for you and that employee if you just let them go so that no one's suffering. That's key. So, what other signs? Let me think about burnout. I would say those are the main ones that I've seen where, or like they just can't keep up. Like maybe notes aren't getting done, or they just can't keep up with the work. And then you sit down and you have a talk and you're like, what's going on? And then they just break out in a full on, they're crying because they're like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is so overwhelming. I can't do it. Okay, well, now we need a reset here. And so a lot of times I'm like, okay, just we need to take a minute and let's figure this out. And then how can you help them as a leader figure that out? So, guys, this is a quick episode, but it's basically on how to spot employee burnout. So if you are starting to recognizing these signs and you need more help on figuring out how to have those hard conversations, how to make sure that what you're seeing and feeling is actually legit, please text me. My number is 703-783-2388. Text me and we'll talk soon.